Hello everyone and welcome to BU Now TV. I'm Joe Fisher.
And I'm Sean Lerman.
Let's get started with today's top stories. The Bloomsburg University Council of Trustees has approved a 4.5% increase in room and board fees for students starting in the 2011-2012 academic calendar year. This decision raises costs from $3,311 to $3,469 per semester. The Care Union operating fee has also been increased for next year as well, from 1.5% to 3% of in-state tuition. This action came on February 23rd, and students are not that happy. It seems as if in today's day, prices are going higher and higher, leaving students in a bad position. One other note is that the tuition will be set by the PASHE Board of Governors in July, so be on the lookout for any changes. Now here is Heather Lahr with an interesting interview with Dr. Asa from the English department.
Thank you, Joe. Here with me this evening is Dr. Asia to talk about the unique opportunity she presents to American expatriate fiction in Paris. During spring break, her students will get the chance to explore Central Paris, broadening their horizons and opening them up to a culture vastly different from our own. Thank you, Professor, for joining us this evening to talk about this trip. First question, when did you first become involved in taking your students to Paris?
It was spring 2007. In spring semester, I usually teach this course that you mentioned, American Expatriate Fiction in Paris. And in 2007, I took a group of students.
With the trip itself, once settled, what various activities, main highlights, do you have planned for your students while you're over there?
We have a program for 6 days, 7 days in fact, when we are there. We start at 9 a.m. in the morning until 6 p.m. in the evening. We usually follow the footsteps of the writers who lived and wrote in Paris in 1920s and 1930s. We visit the houses in which they lived, the cafes in which they exchange manuscripts.
Oh, wow.
And talked about their works and places which they frequented. And also the students go to 3 museums. The Louvre Museum, which is really very big, but they only spend a day there. And they go to Musée d'Orsay to see the impressionistic paintings. And also they go to Musée Rodin, which is a very small museum. But it has a beautiful garden. The highlight of the trip is our visit to Diane Johnson. She's the writer of several novels, but my students read Le Divorce. It's a novel made into a movie too about,
wow.
Yes, it's a cultural conflict between the French and the Americans, and it's a comedy of manners. So Diane Johnson lives in Paris right now. She's the live American expatriate writer. So we spent an afternoon in her apartment. She has a beautiful apartment in Saint-Germain-des-Prés, 18th century apartment. And students ask questions, and she talks about her books and the art of craft of writing. So it's really very beneficial for them to speak. Yes.
Yeah, it seems really neat that they get that inside look at a famous author, famous figure, get to look inside their what they write and how they write
and how she lives.
Background. Yeah,
Exactly.
That's interesting.
Right.
What important values do you hope your students come away from being with Paris? I mean, I know it's like a vast place over there compared to what we experience.
Right. Yes, it's very different. The cultural difference is really great, as you also mentioned. They experience this culture and the way that people live there in a very short time, but it's a very big metropolis, and they're able to observe everything. And I think mostly because it's a very short time, they observe and learn so much in that short period. And for me, the most important part, most rewarding part of this is when they come back, they want to go to other places.
Oh, I'm sure.
Right. This is just a window, and they look out. They know that there are bigger windows, and also there are doors that they can go out. So, and they did that. they went for study abroad programs. They became exchange students.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be a really busy but very exciting experience to be over there and everyone involved, and a learning experience as well.
It is, yes. It's cultural and educational.
Sure. Well, once again, thank you for taking the time to meet with us, and thank you for giving an insight to what Paris is going to be like for them.
Yes, it's my pleasure.
Back to you, Joe.
Thanks, Heather. Very interesting. The big question today is, could Planned Parenthood potentially lose millions of dollars in federal funding? The House of Representatives, led primarily by Republicans, have passed the Title X Abortion Provider Prohibition Act that could cut federal funding from the popular agency. If this bill passes through the Senate, Planned Parenthood will have to reconstruct their business model and come up with a plan of action. This plan of action could result in the loss of jobs for thousands. Republicans say that this is a great way in which to erase some of our federal debt, which now soars above $14 trillion. By putting medical centers in densely populated areas such as New York City, Planned Parenthood can still do what they do and make a profit. And protests are still continuing in the United States and abroad. Libya is now in its third week of protests. The death toll has now exceeded 1,000 people. Muammar Gaddafi has been the leader in Libya since 1969. The citizens of Libya are unhappy and are protesting in outrage against Gaddafi's dictatorship. People around the globe agree that it is time for Gaddafi to let go of power and listen to the will of the people. Back here in the United States, 2 weeks of protests have now passed in Madison, Wisconsin, the state's capital. Governor Scott Walker wants to eliminate collective bargaining rights for most of the state's public employees. Those individuals, among others, are saying no way. Tens of thousands of people line up and rally outside the Capitol building in protest of this decision. Republicans control the lower chamber of the state assembly and agree that this is the best decision. Democrats, who fled the state so they could ignore the vote, were persuaded by Republicans to come back, but not one Democrat returned. On Monday, protesters were shut out of the Capitol building. Many think that this is because the state government officials wanted to shrink the size of the protesting before the unveiling of the budget proposal on Tuesday. This is a perfect example of the First Amendment of the Constitution and the freedom of assembly hard at work by those in Wisconsin. Turning to sports this week, here is Sean Lerman with the update.
Thanks, Joe. In the NFL this week, a slew of players found themselves added to the list of available free agents. One of the biggest names to find themselves off of a roster is former Bears defensive tackle Tommy Harris. Harris made 3 Pro Bowls for Chicago since being drafted in the first round in 2004. He was released after turning in the worst season of his career, in which he had just 13 tackles and 1.5 sacks. Also finding himself on the market this summer is former Washington running back Clinton Portis, who has played just 13 total games in the past 2 seasons and rushed for a career-low 227 yards last year. One of the most desirable players to test free agency this year will be wide receiver Sidney Rice. The Vikings wanted to sign Rice to an extension without having him hit the market, but Rice's agent, Drew Rosenhaus, said that he will not sign any extension until he sees what kind of offers he can receive from other teams. In baseball news, the switch-hitting Carlos Beltran will be switching more than just sides of the plate this upcoming season. The 33-year-old former All-Star went to manager Terry Collins to ask to switch from center field to right field. He said, "This is not about Carlos. This is about the team." Beltran is in the last year of a 7-year, $119 million contract, but has not played a full season since 2008. In 64 games last year, he hit .255 with 7 home runs, had 4 outfield assists, and didn't make any errors in center. In BU sports, the women's basketball team was awarded the #1 seed for the Eastern Division of the PSAC. The men's team ended their season earlier this week with a win over Westchester 61-58, bringing their final record to 11-15. Coming up this week, the Bloomsburg baseball team will travel to West Virginia, where they will compete against other schools from the East Coast. And finally, the softball team will also be taking a road trip over spring break when they travel to Clermont, Florida to play in the 2011 National Training Center Games, where the girls will play 14 games over the stretch of a week. The Bloomsburg softball team was elected as the preseason favorite for the PSAC Central Division. With BU Now TV, I'm Sean Lerman.
Thanks, Sean. Turning to entertainment news, the 83rd Annual Oscar Awards were on Sunday, February 27th. It seemed like they were trying to appease a younger audience by bringing in Anne Hathaway and James Franco to host the evening. Anne seemed to thoroughly enjoy her duty as host the entire night by showing great energy and enthusiasm. It's hard to say the same for James, who looked like he'd rather be somewhere else the entire time. The only time he showed a little spark of energy was when he dressed in a drag. Overall, I suppose they did a good job. They both gave a few corny jokes, but hey, they're actors, not comedians. There were a few performances during the evening, such as Gwyneth Paltrow, Florence Welch, Mandy Moore, Zachary Levi, and Celine Dion. Each singer did an amazing job. The award for Best Supporting Actress went to Melissa Leo for her role in The Fighter, and Best Supporting Actor went to Christian Bale for his role in The Fighter. The award for Best Actress and Actor was no surprise, going to Natalie Portman for Black Swan and Colin Firth for The King's Speech. Both of these actors have been the ones to watch out for months. The King's Speech overall proved to be a great success for the evening, also taking the award for Best Director and Best Motion Picture. Guess we'll have to start watching all the new movies coming out to prepare for next award season. It was fun while it lasted. Let us know what you thought of the award winners, performers, fashion, and the two hosts by logging on to BUNow.org. And lastly, the Hot 8 Brass Band is on its way to Bloomsburg University. This upbeat, foot-stamping, music-playing band is the next group to perform for the Celebrity Artist Series. They will perform on Friday, March 4th at 7 o'clock in the Mitrani Auditorium in the Haas Center for the Arts. You can get your tickets now by going directly to the box office at the Haas Center or by logging on to www.bloomu.edu/CAS. That is all for today. Remember, BU Now brings the now to BU. Log on to BUNow.org for more great stories and other information. On behalf of everyone here at BU Now TV, I'm Joe Fisher.
And I'm Sean Lerman.
Have a great day.